and welcome to a traveling club stream. Na 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 na. Yeah 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 yeah. We will travel Israel, we will see the truth. And when they say we are lying, we will show the proof. Ya habibi. Na 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 na. Yeah 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 yeah. So y'all come with me for another stream. Become a class. Join my Patreon, become a clap. Join my Patreon. And don't forget my Discord because it's very fun. Na 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 na. Yeah 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 yeah. Humus shawarma, jahnun burekas. Umani ohevochem shalom aleichem. And I take you by the hand. This is the Traveling Clan live stream. Shalom and welcome to a Traveling Clan stream. Na 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 na. Yeah 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 yeah. Travel Israel, we will see the truth. And when they say we are lying, we will show the proof. Ya habibi, become a clap. Join my Patreon, become a clap. Join my Patreon. And don't forget my Discord because it's very fun. This is the Traveling Clan live stream. Na 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 na. Yeah 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 yeah. Na 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 na. Yeah 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 yeah. Na 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 na. Yeah 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 yeah. Na 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 na. Yeah 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 yeah.
Shalom chaverim. Oh, we got a camera issue again. Software. There we are. Shalom chaverim. Welcome back to the Technical Issues Podcast. You know how we roll. There's always got to be a little bit of a problem before we start the show. Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Traveling Clan live stream. We've taken a bit of a hiatus. I was very sick, as you guys know, 2 weeks off. But I wanted to just come back with a bang. So we got a really special episode for you guys today with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Corey Gil Shuster. I'll bring him on in just a little bit from the Ask Project, not the Ask Project. I sometimes say it and it sounds like the Ask Project. That's a different project, but not his project that he's working on currently. Okay, that's just a clarification. I do want to say here at the beginning of the show, I really appreciate everybody for coming in. Appreciate all the warm words and the well wishes while I was sick. It means a lot. And obviously all the support that we've had both on Patreon, on Discord, on everything. It's been amazing. So thank you to everybody who's been tuning in and supporting the show and everything that I do here. We will be transitioning the Traveling Clat live stream now into a new phase where I'm hoping to bring on amazing guests like Corey, who's joining us today, to come and talk about these different things and these different topics. We got a really, really exciting show. And obviously, if you guys are members of our Discord, you'll have an opportunity to actually talk to Corey today by calling in and asking him questions. I'm assuming that it might be a little bit hectic today because I'm assuming a lot of people are going to want to talk to him. So make sure you get in now to the Discord and queue up already now to speak to him because I always try to choose new viewers. Now, here's the thing. Before we begin everything, I want to do the whole spiel. I want to say that I can't do any of this stuff without your guys' support. So if you want to help, my Patreon is the best way. By joining my Patreon for just $5 a month, you get exclusive content every Monday. $10 a month, you get access to the after party on Discord. Happens after every single stream. It's super fun. We have an amazing community there. You can also show me support on Buy Me a Coffee, PayPal, and Super Chats right here on stream or visiting thetravelingclad.com to get merchandise. But Patreon is obviously the best way, as I always say. Every bit keeps the channel going, but Patreon is the best way. And for those of you guys who are new or just streaming in right now, join the Discord. The link is in the chat. All you have to do is click that. You can queue up to call in right now. It's free to join. Doesn't cost you a penny. And in addition to those of you guys who are here before we shut down the Discord, our Discord is finally back up and running. The Discord's fully open for anybody. We made some changes on there structurally, moderation-wise. We're moving forward to a new age of Discord, so we wanted to take this opportunity while Corey was joining us to point attention to this now. Discord is officially open after a month-long hiatus, so welcome back to everybody. And with that being said, I want to welcome the legend himself, Corey Gil Shuster. Oh, I just brought up my my speech instead of my Discord screen. 1 second. Let me see if this is all good. Corey, can you hear me?
I hear you.
And I got
Can
you
you
too.
see me? Hear me?
Yes. Yeah, we can hear you. We can see you perfect. How are you doing, brother?
I'm okay. Well, it's 7:06 at night, so it's hours past my bedtime. Yeah.
When do you actually usually go to sleep?
Oh, I'm in bed at this point,
Really?
watching TV and
Wow.
falling asleep. Oh, yesterday, I usually fall asleep around 8:30, not kidding. And yesterday, I had no electricity for 5-6 hours because, Tel Aviv. And there was, at 6 o'clock, I was exhausted and thinking, I'm just going to fall asleep. So I think I was asleep by 7.
What is a wake-up time for Corey? Like, when do you usually wake
3.
up in the morning?
3 o'clock. Good cup of coffee at 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah.
Wow, is there you have a sleeping condition, or that's just your normal operating?
No, it's just it happens. It just happened as I got older.
3 a.m. is wild.
Yeah,
That's
and I used
crazy.
to sleep in. Yeah, it's crazy.
Well,
Okay, everyone makes fun of me.
also want to give
Fine.
no, I'm not gonna. I'll never make fun of you. Not for that. I'll make fun of you for other things. Not for that though.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I also want to give a shout out to Lachin for dropping us 35 South African Rand, saying, "Tell Corey I say hi." You got a fan. You got a fan in the chat. Okay, Corey, I want to start off by getting into something a little bit juicy, as you're still a little bit awake right now before you get too sleepy. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, you are Canadian, just resigned.
I'm Canadian.
He just resigned. What do you feelings, opinions, thoughts? What do you think about it?
He's a hottie, and other than that, I know nothing. But other than most people I know don't like him, have not liked him for a long time. They think he's incompetent. I have no idea if that's true or not. I really don't know.
You haven't lived in Canada in a long time.
No, I haven't lived in Canada since 2010.
Do you feel though very much connected still to Canada and like Canadian society in any way?
I feel very culturally Canadian, but I don't feel like I don't care what's happening politically. Nothing happens in Canada ever. I'm sorry. Yeah, Canadians, you can all hate me for it. I go back to Canada once a year. Nothing has changed. Everything's the same. More happens here in 10 minutes in front of my apartment. Literally, I can tell you stories of the crap that happens outside my apartment. More happens there than in Canada.
Canada?
No, I don't really know. I have no real opinion. He's a good-looking guy. That's so shallow, but really, that's all I can say.
Honestly, from the perspective of media, the only thing that I know about Justin Trudeau is that he's had this sort of like faux celebrity status because of his good looks. And policy-wise, I think a lot of Canadians have been sort of frustrated with him. I don't really know much. I put out some polls on my Instagram today just to kind of gauge what people were feeling. And from a lot of Jewish people, I've heard like a lot of really bad things about him.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Everyone's asked me today. I've had a few people who've asked me, what is my opinion? I'm like, I have no idea. I know my sister is really happy. But that's it. That's all I know.
This is like the one day
So
that
the
Canadians get a
Conservatives will
spotlight.
probably win next election. That's all I know.
Okay, let's begin by maybe giving a slight introduction. I don't think you really need an introduction in this space, but maybe for people who are coming across you the first time, or maybe putting a face to you, who are you and what do you do?
I am Corey. Nice to meet you. So in my spare time, I have this YouTube channel that I've had since 2012, where I ask people to send me questions. I take their questions and go out to the streets of Israel and the Palestinian territories in the West Bank, not Gaza. And I ask random people, and it's completely random. Even when you came with me, Traveling Clat, you kept saying, wow, it really is the way it is in the videos. Wow, holy crap, these people really do answer this way. Yeah, I'm not making this stuff up. And I'm not choosing anybody in particular. I'm just trying to get a cross section of each society as much as possible. And the idea is, how do we know about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? There are books, there are professors that teach about it, and we hear leaders speaking, and the news. So I get kind of fed up with feeling unprepared because media doesn't really tell us what I think is really going on, or
Right.
what really happens day to day. The leaders are they never really say anything, and they tend to be full of crap. Everyone seems to have an agenda. You see a documentary, they have an agenda. Everybody has an agenda. I want to know what do regular people think. So that's why I do this.
So tell me, I think this is probably the juiciest part of the video. I mean, I obviously know because we've become pretty close friends the last couple of years. We talk quite frequently, and we've actually we have an opportunity to film some stuff in different locations on the ground in the West Bank, in Ramallah, in Kalandia, in Ariel, and we just filmed one in Ramleh. That video is coming out on Thursday. A really fun video where me and Corey invaded Arab tunnels in Israel. That was what we ended up calling the video.
I went into some Arab tunnel. Yes, some Arab's tunnel. Yeah. Okay.
Man, you guys don't understand how much fun.
Oh, wait a second. Hold on. That's a slam on Arab. Sorry, no offense, but it's going to be the Jew went in the Arab tunnel. Go ahead.
Also,
anything inappropriate.
If anybody hasn't seen, me and Corey had the honor and privilege of going to meet the Red Heifers last year in Shiloh, which is like crazy because they usually only let esteemed journalists into that institution. It was me and Corey rocking up there like, let's take a selfie with the cows. It was like a real...
and I almost touched one before I realized you're not allowed to touch them. And she's like, well, you can't touch them. And I'm like, oh.
Corey could have single-handedly been responsible for the Mashiach not coming.
Not coming, exactly. It would have been me. Yeah, sounds about right.
But what is actually your conclusion after all these years? You've been doing this for 12 years, 15 years now?
And it's 13 years.
13 years. What's actually sort of I kind of know your answer to this, but I'm curious if you could relay it. What is your conclusion on the Israel-Palestine conflict? How do you actually feel about it?
Okay, this is just my opinion, and I hope I am wrong, but I see no good solution. There's no solution that both sides would agree to. Even if forced by the Americans and I don't know who else, into a solution, it's very easy to destroy any solution. Very easy. Takes some violence on one side or the other, both sides, to undo anything. So I don't have really any hope for a solution. And I think both sides contribute to it to a certain degree. I mean, I have my criticisms of both. I think Palestinians are much more stubborn than Israelis, but Israelis are also fooling themselves by thinking they want what I call lazy peace, meaning if I can sit on my couch and not have to do anything and I get everything that I want, fine, okay, we can have peace. Or you can't make peace like that. You have to make peace by making actual compromises or destroying each other, which I don't want.
I actually genuinely agree with that point. I think a lot of times, and I'm not so publicly spoken about it, I think that the Israelis lack the ability to feed into the concessions they actually need to make to get to a point of peace. And I don't necessarily mean about like giving up land, but actually psychologically how they have to attain peace. And I've had limited interaction with Palestinians on the ground, some of which has been with you, which has been very, very interesting to me. But I think I always say when people ask me what's the best Hasbara, I always point them to your channel because I think you're the best advocacy for Israel without even having to be an advocate for Israel. Because I don't consider you an Israel advocate. At least that's not your stance. But
not at all.
Your channel actually showcases the perspectives of Palestinians on the ground all over the West Bank. And people can see for themselves, unabashed, unfiltered, what they're feeling. What is actually that conclusion for you? Like, what have you gained from them? If you had to sum up their whole point, or maybe some of the most popular ones that you've heard, like, what do they actually say to you on the ground for people who maybe are too lazy to watch your videos?
That they feel that they were wronged in 1948. That before that, Jews and Arabs were living in total bliss, and the Muslims were just so wonderful to the Jews, and it's all the Zionist Jews/Israelis' fault. And they actually don't really distinguish between Zionist Jews and Israelis. It just all kind of gets mashed up together. And it's all the Jews' fault. And the only way it can be undone is for the Jews to leave, period. That's it. That's You have some people who are saying I'm willing to live with the Jews, but they have to be under Palestine. Or some very, very few people who are willing to live either in two states or one state with Israel controlling whatever. But that's a small minority.
Right.
The majority of people are the Jews have to leave. Period.
Do
They've screwed us over for too long.
do you think that some of that perspective is actually warranted? Like, have you found yourself feeling compassionate towards their side in
Yeah,
any
a
way?
little bit, a little bit.
In
A
what?
little bit, yes, because from their perspective, and a lot of it is sort of being in an echo chamber. So each side is a little bit in an echo chamber. I think Israelis are a little less because they kind of know more about Palestinians than I mean, every Israeli thinks they know everything about Palestinians, but they turn out to be more right about Palestinians than Palestinians about Israelis. The reverse isn't true, which is weird because usually the weaker party knows more about the stronger party. If you look at conflict resolution or conflict dynamics or analysis, so it's a little strange. They know nothing about Israelis, and the things they do think about Israelis have a grain of truth that I'll give them, but have a lot of exaggeration piled on top of it in order to suit their own collective identity needs to feel that they are right and I mean Palestinians are right and Israelis are wrong.
I would say
So yeah,
actually.
I have some sympathy. Some.
I would say actually you bring up a good point of that about how usually it's that the person who has less is more in the know about the person who has more, right? Like
Usually
the less.
we know more about our bosses than our bosses know about us. That's the
But
usually.
the truth is actually, if you look at it from a perspective of the wider Arab world, which the Palestinians fall into, it actually makes a lot more sense because we know our enemies, quote unquote, because Palestinians act unfortunately like the same pretty much as the rest of the Arab world. Like they maybe have more extremism on their end in a lot of ways, but like Palestinian culture isn't much different than Syrian radical culture or Lebanese radical culture or Egyptian radical culture. In a lot of ways, they're the same, and we've gotten to know that
Us, yeah.
through. So actually, ironically enough, it is true.
Yeah, I was 60% of Israelis come from Middle Eastern heritages.
Right.
And I call bullshit when somebody who's Moroccan says, "Well, my grandparents lived in Morocco. I know the Arab mentality." I'm like, "Well, Moroccan mentality isn't exactly the same as Palestinian mentality, but they're closer to the knowledge than a Palestinian who worked in Israel and barely speaks any Hebrew knows Israeli Jews."
Yeah.
And that's from my speaking to them with an open mind, thinking, "Come on, you must know something about the Jews," and they really know nothing. And it comes out in their conspiracy theories about what the Jews can do and they can't do, and just the way they see Jewish history. They really know nothing.
They really don't know anything. And it's funny because it's so caught up in. I mean, now I think Palestinians are in a really tough position too because throughout this year, particularly the Palestine stance has appropriated so much Jewish history and Christian history. And now they're kind of tied up in their own mess. Like within 2023, Jesus became a Muslim Palestinian, and so did Moses and Abraham. And all these figures that stem back to proper Judaism or Christianity, they now are part of the pro Palestine agenda. But they somehow, when you ask them about their own history, what I felt when we were on the ground, at least, if we asked some of those questions, that you'd hit a wall, or they wouldn't really be interested in talking about it because they don't really know.
Yeah,
And that's after
I
watching a
don't
lot
know.
of your videos. They don't actually know. And that's why that rampant joke about the History of Palestine Museum being empty, it's like actually true because 99% of Palestinians I've seen you ask these questions, they don't know their own history.
Yeah. Shockingly, I actually sometimes, I mean, I don't remember names, but I know that there was a sheikh who lived in central today, what we call Israel, who had a certain amount of independence in the 1700s or 1800s. Somebody Palestinian from America pointed him out to me, and I was like, "Well, that's interesting." There was actually somebody who had some form of independence under, I forget who's, Ottoman times, I'm guessing. Do you think any Palestinian knows about that? I'm sure no, not at all. And I feel for them because from their perspective, this I'll go back to, do I feel anything, any sympathy for them? Of course I do. You grew up on this land. Your ancestors are from this land. Yes, of course, some of their ancestors also came from Arabia and Egypt and Turkey. Of course,
Correct.
people
Yeah.
are intermixed. Of course, just like Jews are mixed with whatever population we had gone to. Um, but from your perspective, you're just sitting on this land, and you have these foreign people. To them, they see us as foreigners. Invade the land and somehow get everything and somehow win. by the way, and this is the part I obviously disagree with, from their perspective, how could these Jews do it? Where in the Quran tells us the Jews are these like inferior people who went against God. How could they be doing this to us? It's not possible. It must be a conspiracy of the world against us. So I feel for them, but at the same time, I'm giving actually two sides in the same breath. On the one hand, I feel sympathy, but on the other hand, live in reality. We have to deal with what is happening on the ground. We have to deal with how are we going to move forward? Not with conspiracy, not with God is going to help us in the end. I mean, I'm an atheist, so I don't think anything like that's going to happen. So
That's actually a good
watch, I'll find that
transition.
I'm wrong, and
It's a good
and the Muslims
transition.
are right.
It's a good transition actually into the next conversation I wanted to have. I think a lot of people are really confused on you, Corey. And not that I think you owe anybody an explanation, but if you do feel open to it, I know that you're pretty much an open book. That's why I feel comfortable asking you these questions. Like, I'd love for you to take a moment to explain kind of like, what is it that you actually believe? I think, and I'll play this from a devil's advocate perspective. I've gotten to know you personally, so I know what Corey really thinks, and I think you're the most knowledgeable person on this conflict that I've come across face to face, because you live it, like you live it, and you go on the ground, and you know it from a really on the ground perspective, which I think is the most
Yeah,
important.
so yeah,
And
sort of. Yeah.
every time I have a conversation with you about this, if you challenge my opinions, I always learn something, and I'm always able to gravitate something. Like I'm always able to grab something and then use it again in a conversation. I always learn from you. And I think that like when people watch your videos, maybe because you play both sides, or not play both sides, but you ask questions on both sides, they're confused on like, is he a Zionist? Is he anti-Zionist Jew? Well, he's gay, so can he be a Zionist Jew? Can he be proud to be Israeli? Is he even Jewish?
Oh
And then,
wait, how can you wait? Hold on. If I'm gay, what is the connection to Zionism?
well,
I don't even get.
some people have an obscured version on if you're gay, that you can't be a Zionist.
Sure,
Of course.
of course.
Yeah, of
Okay.
course.
Yeah.
And then other people on the Palestinian perspective would say he's paid by the government, he's paid by Mossad, he's an informant, he's this, he's that. What is it
Yeah,
that
I
you
get that.
actually believe in, Corey?
It's a huge question. Okay, so basically, I'm very Canadian in my outlook. I'm a Canadian Gen X. What am I? Yes, Gen X person. So I believe in human rights and fairness, and we should all be good to each other, and everyone deserves the same uh, um, uh, treatment, and everyone, if the Jews have independence, then of course the Palestinians should have some form of should have independence. And I very much believe in, so connected to Judaism. I don't believe in God. I don't go to synagogue. Couldn't care less. I feel traumatized by the whole thing. Was forced to go. I went to a religious school, hated it. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Never connected to it, but I love my history. I think Jews have an interesting history.
Mm.
And I actually am super interested in the archaeology and the ancient history and the history of my people, where I came from, where you came from, how we were connected over 2,000 years ago, how we moved apart. Like to me, knowing the genetics of each person, are we related? Are we not related? I don't actually care if you and I are genetically related. I don't care. I have an adopted brother and an adopted son. No, of course we're not genetically related, but they're still my brother and my son. You could still have that. But I think it's interesting where people come from and what the history is. And I love my history. I actually think we have a very interesting history. I also think, on the other hand, we Jews are a little bit self-obsessed. We think the world is always against us. Turns out, kind of true, a little true.
A little bit.
That everybody, it's a little weird. And I don't understand why the world, I mean, I know the reasons. It's because of the Bible and because of Judeo-Christian, blah, blah, blah. I know the reasons, but I think it's weird. At the same time, I like my history and my culture, and I'm a little obsessed with it, but it's mine. Well, all these people these Christians, no offense, Christians, I respect you, it's fine, but that they're all a little obsessed with Israel is weird to me. It's nice to get any attention. Everybody likes attention. It's a little weird. In the same way that I see all these students who are pro-Palestinian from river to sea and blah, 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 blah. It's really nice. If you're Palestinian, it feels good to be noticed. Finally, Palestinians are being noticed. It is weird. It is weird that people are kind of cosplaying or doing whatever they're doing around the world for Jews and for Palestinians, and everyone has a team. Part of me wants to say, leave us alone. We got enough issues. Let us deal with each other. But I don't think we're dealing with each other very well. So, my beliefs? I guess those are my beliefs. I love my history. I would like to say I love my people, but they drive me bonkers. These people, like Israelis, holy crap. Wow.
When me and Corey
I
are
have so many
together,
stories.
we shit talk Israelis.
Oh,
And we're
so
both
bad.
Israeli, yeah. Like we've both been Israeli
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah,
a good part
absolutely.
of our
And I
lives.
understand it. Oh, I just was talking to a friend of mine who's also the same type, who's like talking about, he's like, I can't stand these people. He's American, but he
Yeah.
lived in Israel, and he's now in a European country, and he's like, he had the same reaction. He suddenly turned into an Israeli when he was like challenged by someone in that country, and he suddenly acted like an Israeli, and he's like, I'm full of crap. What can I tell you? I was criticizing them, and I did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
As long as you're aware, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with being full of crap as long as you're aware of it. That's my thing.
So would you consider yourself a Zionist in the classic
Oh,
term
yeah,
of
yeah.
a Zionist?
Sorry, I should have said that. Yes, I would say I'm absolutely a Zionist in the sense of, okay. If you had asked me in 1947, am I a Zionist? I would have said, what do we need? What do we need a country for? The British are wonderful. I would have been that person. I would have been like, the British, they're so cultured. We need their parliament. We need them to rule us. You think we can rule ourselves? We're a bunch of people who know nothing. That's what I would say. As soon as Israel happened and other countries recognized Israel as a country, then Israel exists, period. So I'm a Zionist in that I want my country to exist. I want Jews to be safe. Whatever makes that happen to a certain extent, meaning I'm not willing to go kill every Palestinian, not that people are advocating for this exactly, but just to keep my people safe. So there's obviously limits. I also don't think I'm a classic, like from the two-state solution era person. I'm old. And so when I'm in the West Bank, I'm like, I think you settlers are full of crap. Full of crap. You're living in Delulu land where you think because the settler idea is once the Arabs understand that the Jews are good for the Arabs, it'll all be fine. That's the dominant narrative in the West Bank settlers community, and I think that's diluted. I think why, if I believe Israelis deserve self-determination, Jews deserve self-determination, why wouldn't Palestinians deserve the same thing? The problem is you go to the Palestinian side and they're like, we don't give a shit about self-determination. We want our land back, period. They're focusing on something very different.
Hyphen kill
than
Jews,
I'm
so
focusing
also
on.
like they
Well,
want.
it's not just no, it's not about killing Jews. It's about getting the Jews to leave.
Yeah.
Truthfully,
And look,
if
this is
they
something I
have to
really
kill us,
value.
force us to leave, okay, that's what happens.
This is something I really value about me and Corey's relationship. Like we have things that we disagree with. For example, me and Corey have talked about this plenty of times too. I don't believe in a two-state solution. I don't think that it can work. I also don't really believe in Palestinian self-determination. I just think that it would devolve into oppression of other people. But that's the nice thing about, and I think a lot of Jews and Israelis take an opportunity to make this known. When you come here, there is no monolith in opinion on any of this. Every single Jew that you ask will have a different opinion that's slightly varied on each one. There's some opinions that are a little bit more mainstream, some opinions that are a little bit less, but overall, you don't have to think. And this is what drives me crazy about Arab/Muslim society. And I saw it when I was with you in Ramallah when we were asking people. It felt like zombie, like brain dead. Like just everybody has to think the exact same way. You don't get a varied opinion. Everyone thinks exactly in the same manner. And it drives me crazy because what kind of society, how can you progress as a society if you don't have the freedom of ideas? How can you move forward in life? How can you pick yourself up by the bootstraps and do something with yourself if you can't actually think for yourself?
Well, I think privately they're more open to a lot of ideas. I don't know about Israel necessarily, but in general. But I can't do privately, right? I'm walking around with a camera giving people 5 minutes to say, can you explain what you think about something? And what they're thinking in their minds is, on the Palestinian side, is what will my family think of this? Will I get arrested by the Israelis? Will I get arrested by the Palestinian Authority? That's what they're thinking about.
Right.
On the Israeli side, it's slightly a different focus, but still. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's possible. I think to me that is something to do with Arab Islam, of this idea of everyone has to think exactly the same way, and if not, you're forced into it. I don't know. Not an expert on that. But that seems to be because I speak to Christians, and it seems to be slightly different. I mean, they're not supportive of Israel. There are some, but the majority are not. They're just as anti-Israel as the Muslims, but they're just not willing to use violence. It's just not their way.
Yeah.
So it's just different, and they're more open to thinking in different ways,
Yeah.
as long as it doesn't directly contradict their religious or cultural beliefs, which is everybody. I mean, Jews do the same thing.
Yeah.
So
I remember
yes, it is more extreme on the Arab Muslim side. Yes.
I remember the Christian Arab lady that we spoke to. We didn't interview her on camera, but we spoke to her in Ramallah. She was or in Ramle. She was outside of like that restaurant. I don't want to name specifics, but we were. If you remember, we were speaking to her just a little while ago when we were there, and she was.
Oh yeah.
She was really. You could tell she was really caught in the crossfire between the two worlds. Like, feels very Israeli, but very proud to be Christian, very proud to be Palestinian, and like lives as an Israeli citizen. And you could tell like that's something, for example, that I really feel for is like the Christian citizens of this country and of the West Bank and of the North and like actually of all the Middle East. They're really stuck in a fucked up situation where they don't feel like they have much of they don't have anywhere to go. Everywhere is unsafe for them to a certain extent. And their allegiance / nationality identity is completely obscure.
So in Israel, they're technically physically safe.
Yeah.
But yes, in terms of their identity, in terms of their opinions, it's hard for if they feel for Gaza, what's going on right now in Gaza, they feel like, well, I could get a knock on the door by the police. I mean, that's the general consensus among Arabs in general in Israel. So, people are allowed to have opinions, even if I don't like their opinions. As long as it's not violent, I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah.
And I think we haven't. It's another criticism of Israeli Jewish society is we've become so emotionalized that it's hard for people to have dissenting opinions and voice them. So yeah, I wish we could give more room for that.
Yeah, I think
But everybody feels attacked, so it's hard.
What I value about the system that we live in and also the system that we come from in the West, and I'm not totally anti-Western society as maybe sometimes they make it look to be, but something that I really value about it is everybody has a right to an opinion, but the most important thing to me is for me to have the right to criticize your opinion. Like your opinion to me can be wrong as fuck, and I can eat it apart, like I can just destroy it. And I have the right to do that. And that's something that I really appreciate about where we live in is because I don't feel like anybody can hold that over my head, both in the States or here. That's something I really, really appreciate. And I've come to really learn, especially in the last year, connecting with Arabs from all over the Arab world and Iranians, like people who are in Iran, who have tons of opinions on what's going on in their country, but literally can't even share a quarter of it out of fear of literally being killed, out of physical harm to them. And that's something that I've come to.
And additionally, Israel is the best country in the Middle East for that.
Yeah,
absolutely. I can, and I do all the time. I'm constantly, sometimes even if I don't believe it, telling people certain opinions to kind of. That's a Jewish thing too, by the way. So I remember being in arguments about different issues, nothing to do with Israel Palestine, and people would bring up an argument, and then like 3 months later, it'd be like, well, I didn't really mean it. I was just giving, to try to be, contradictory. Just a fun thing people do.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that we can do that. I think that's great. I think that's a very healthy society.
I think that's how you also progress as a society. It's so important. If you can't share those ideas, critique them, you'll never be able to improve them. We're at the 30-minute mark here. I want to real quick just shout out some people who have been super chatting. Guys, today's show is going to be a little... You bite your apple. Today's show is going to be a little bit rushed because obviously I think a lot of people are going to want to ask Corey questions. So if you do want to get your super chats in, we'll do another round of reading super chats in a bit. So get them in now, and I'll come back to them towards the end of the show. Mars dropped us 199. Said, "Remember us our quest to find a Canadian last night." True, we were looking for a Canadian. Now we got our beautiful, sexy Canadian to tell us all the opinions on Justin Trudeau. Thank you, Mars, for the super chat. Tim dropped us €5 and said, "Free Palestine from Houthi and Iranian attacks." Amen, brother. Mashallah. Davide said that he dropped us €5 and said that's because Palestinian identity is really a Volk, aka a socially constructed identity to push a dialectal conflict theory. Do you believe in that, Corey?
Chewing.
He says that's because
You caught me off guard.
Palestinian identity is really a Volk. I don't even know what the definition of Volk is,
Neither do I. I've never heard that.
aka a socially constructed identity to push a dialectal conflict theory. I agree with most of the parts
I don't know what you mean by dialectical conflict theory, but it's invented. Yeah, I guess, but there are 10 million, 14 million Palestinians around the world who believe it. So it doesn't matter. So is religion, by the way.
Yeah.
Religion is an invention.
I
I always joke with the Haredim that, one of the things I like about being Jewish is we invented monotheism. And they always get so offended because they're like, no, God invented us. And I'm like, no. We invented God. So just pisses them off. Yeah, of course. Maybe it's an invention, but who cares? There have been people for at least 100 years who believe that they are Palestinian. And fine. If their goal is not to destroy us, I have no issue with that. That isn't my... they have their Palestinian culture, and they can do the debka, and they can wear their dresses, and I have no issue with this. They can claim hummus as theirs and falafel.
Isn't that the dabka?
Don't care. Couldn't care less.
Isn't this the dabka?
But it turns into this stupid fight where they go, oh, these Jews from Poland stole hummus. I'm like, Habibi. I mean, not me, but you, let's say. Most Israelis come from cultures where they ate hummus for the last 2,000 years.
You think you invent hummus? You don't invent hummus, Habibi.
My grandmother.
Maybe Corey Gil Shuster invent hummus, but not you, Muhammad. Not you, Muhammad. I will say that I agree to a certain extent, Davide. I agree with Corey in the sense that Palestinians are a thing now. Whether you like it or not, you got to come to terms with the fact that they exist. But what I really believe in, and I believe that people should do that to us too, to find the pitfalls in our identity. People do it all the time. We have the right to scrutinize. We have the right to pick apart the history. We have a right to pick apart the culture and call out cultural appropriation. The fact that I've made content about this kafia not belonging in the slightest to any Levantine culture or Palestinians, and this being invented in Iraq, is a clear case of how you make a movement to push back against that idea. If Palestinians have a culture, they have to have their own culture. They can't steal somebody else's culture. I'm all about Palestinians having a culture. I'm all about Palestinians having an identity. I don't believe that they should self-identify in a land autonomously. I don't think they can handle that. But I do think that we should be able to pick apart their ideas and their history if they're appropriating somebody else's. I'm all about that all day. But yes, it is true. They exist.
I disagree with you. I don't think people steal cultures. I think people share cultures and people go, I like that. And then it turns into their culture and they develop it in their own way. I have no issue with that.
I think, for example, calling Jesus a Palestinian and putting a kafia on him.
Well, it doesn't make sense in a logical sense because there wasn't Palestine until 30 years after Jesus' death. So that makes no sense in a logic sense.
That to me, that to me is something I will stand on the grave and I'll criticize it. I'm like,
he also wasn't a Christian.
And he wasn't a Christian. And
he never called himself a Christian.
So you can't.
But it doesn't matter.
I won't let that idea fly, especially in the kafia is something I'm passionate about because this comes from Iraq, This is something my ancestors in Iraq wore. It has nothing to do with Palestine. Yasser Arafat culturally appropriated this in a violent way. So, and the history is true. It's not like Palestinians run away from it. That's history that they own up to. Same thing as the Palestinian flag, it being the pan-Arab flag, which is Islamic history, has nothing to do with Palestine or with the Levant. These are things that I think we should criticize it because we can help Palestinians be better, in my opinion. Okay, but I don't want to hark on this forever. Davide also dropped us €2. Also, we hit 200 viewers in the chat right now, so welcome everybody. That's awesome. 215, we just jumped up. Welcome everyone. We're with the great and powerful and sexy Corey Gil Shuster tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Go for the sexy. Looking for a husband.
Looking for a hubby.
If any doctors are on,
it's
like okay.
Looking
for a doctor. A lawyer. I'll take a lawyer.
Davide dropped us another €2. It said to Corey, look up Soviet Korean Zatkija. I'll make sure to send this to Corey after the show, if I remember.
Okay.
Davide.
I'm not that smart, but I will. Okay.
Okay.
I'll never remember.
Shauna Wood Demon said, I would love to know if you guys have a perspective about why Christianity was able to reform its perspective, but Islam has not. 7th century Christians were just as bad in their views of the Jews. You want to spearhead that, Corey?
I know. I can add to this, but say something. But I am not an expert in Islam, and I have a pet peeve when people who are not experts comment on things. But I'll still do it. So I know one of the things in Islam which Muslims pride themselves on is that Islam and the Quran is the unchanged word of God since Muhammad was given the word of the Quran. And it is word for word exactly the same. Even though I've actually been told there are different Qurans that have slight differences, but whatever. So at least the story that Muslims today tell themselves is that the Jews were offered the word of God and they went against God
Right.
and they killed prophets and they changed it to suit their needs. And so God gave it to the Christians and they did something similar. And then he gave it to the Muslims or Muhammad and he created Islam. And that is the true word of God. So therefore, it cannot be changed, period. Cannot. That's my understanding. But I'm not an expert on Islam. You need to invite an Islam, I was going to say an Islamist, an
Honest,
expert on Islam
honestly,
to comment.
an Islamist is a bit of an
Or an
expert too.
Islamist,
Yeah,
truthfully.
an
You should
Islamist.
have, actually. Yeah.
You know, we'll probably have an Islamist today. Almost every call section, we have some sort of Islamist that joins in and yells at us about Muhammad or about Allah and how we're
Anyways,
wrong if we
all
don't.
that what I just said is exactly what I'm told time after time after time by many different Muslim Palestinians. That's all I know.
I would say, Shauna, that I think Christianity has had time over Islam, roughly 600 years longer than Islam to reform, which is it is a good amount of time. I also think that Islam has been thrusted into a world of modernity that it maybe was not ready for. And that Arab society tends to feed into racism and into chaos way more than Christian society, because Christian society sort of spread to the West and was able to develop new ideas. If you look at the history of the Middle East, whether it's ancient Mesopotamia, Babylon, Akkadian, Sumerian, Phoenician, Philistine, Persian, there has never been peace in this region. Not one time. There has never been peace in this region ever. For before Islam, before Arabs, before anybody, there has been intertribal battles and external battles and battles on religion and forced conversions and rapes and murders and pillaging. It's happened forever now. And so I think that you're seeing just a group of people who have been colonized by the Arabs, like the wider Arab world, which is the 400 million people you see today who are considered the Arabs. You're just seeing a manifestation of them in the modern day. They've never had the ability to progress. I do think, like I've had multiple conversations this week with ex-Muslims and with Muslims who are more open to the Middle East sort of progressing into the modern age. I do think that things are changing in a positive direction. And I think that Arabs are waking up to the fact that there's some serious major pitfalls of their behavior slash culture. And that I think that maybe there's a desire to start progressing in the proper direction, which doesn't necessarily mean the Western direction, just in a direction where there's a little bit more acceptance and tolerance for people of different ideas. So, yeah, that's my personal take on it. I don't know if it's overstepping. I'm not an Islamic scholar by any means or a Christian scholar, but I do believe in what I just said. Corey, before we get into the call-in section, which is the real spicy and fun bit, I do want to ask you, can you, and I don't think I've ever had you tell me about this before, but can you tell me about what has been your favorite memory in the last 13 years doing this? Have you ever had a moment that you like sort of looked back and were like, this is fucking unreal. I can't believe like I'm doing this right now, or this is amazing, or this was incredible.
Actually, all the time. I still love. Today I went to film on campus at Tel Aviv University. I'm filming with a few of my students to actually make a promotional video for the program itself, and you find people who I make. You walk up to somebody and you think, okay, he's going to be a good speaker or she's going to be a bad speaker, whatever. And people surprise me all the time. And as they're speaking, sometimes I'm like, holy crap, really? Am I getting this information? Like one guy we spoke to today, not in the video, was telling me, Arab Israeli, Palestinian, was telling me how I don't know how it came up, but he's like, "Oh, have you been to some town, some city in the West Bank?" And I said, "Yeah, yeah, I've been there." And he goes, "Ah, see, my father has we own a factory in the Jewish settlement next to it." And I'm looking at him going, but you're an Arab Muslim Palestinian. Why would you have a factory in a Jewish settlement? And he's like, why not? And I'm like, okay. How am I? And it's not on video. I don't have it, and I don't want to out his family. And I said I should have got that on the video. He goes, you can. It's promotion for the company. But I'm like, I know it'll cause issues if other Palestinians knew about it. Um, I just think every time I film, there's always somebody who surprises me with some piece of information that I never thought I would get. I remember another one. This is years ago. There was an Iraqi woman, a woman who was born in Iraq, and she told me the story of escaping from Iraq in her 20s, and how her friend, who was Muslim, came from like a family that was like a threat to the whoever took over. I don't remember history in the 50s, and they put her up on a pole and they ripped her insides out. So she found her friend with her entrails, like her insides coming out of her, and how she had to escape with through Turkey, and she had to pretend she was a Muslim, and she was just telling me the story. That's actually in a video. What was her name? Blanking on her name. I'll remember after. People just tell me the craziest stories about their lives or about their opinions or about something, and it's sometimes in the video and sometimes just before the video or after the video. It is amazing. Both Palestinians and Israelis will tell you almost anything if you just ask them. And I had no idea going into this. I really had no idea. And it's there's so many stories of things that have happened that I'm just amazed. And most of them are in the videos. I try to put it into the video as much as possible. So even if something happened after, sometimes I'll have a little break where I write what happened, or that happened once a video a few years ago. So
That's actually such a beautiful way to put it, Corey, because in reality, not to look at it too much like kumbaya and hippie and amazing and whatever.
no, it's not that.
It is. But like this, if there's a country to do this project, it's here. 'Cause, like living in Southeast Asia and living around Asia for the last couple of years, if you were to attempt to do a project like this in a lot of parts of Asia, whenever I'm out filming with you, I'm always shocked by how receptive people are, and how like it's a vast majority of people are actually willing to talk to you. I find that a lot of times when you stop people, they're way more willing than not willing. And it's just like random people going about their day. And that, what you just said, that quote is so beautiful. If you're willing to ask a Palestinian, ask an Israeli, they're willing to tell you almost anything. And that's so true. There are so many people here with like rich stories and culture and history, and they're just carrying it around with them all day. Like everyone in this country has seen some shit. Doesn't matter where they are, if they're Samaritan or if they're Hebrew Israelite or if they're Mizrahi or Ethiopian or Ashkenazi. Doesn't matter. Everybody has a story to tell, and everybody's been through some shit and seen some shit. And so if you just take
What's interesting is also they don't think it's a big deal.
right,
They tell these stories as if it's like they're not telling, because you can tell when somebody's telling a story like, oh my God, you won't believe this happened. They're telling it like, well, it's, this happened, and then I saw my friend and she was ripped apart. And I'm like, what the fuck? What is going on here? People will tell you stuff, often without a camera is a bit better, but people will tell you the stories of their lives, and they're fascinating. These are really interesting people.
absolutely, yeah, the very, very, very interesting people, very deep people. And I think sometimes people they'll look at them from the outsider, especially if you're a tourist coming to this country. And let's say you don't really you just come to Jerusalem, you come to your tour in Tel Aviv, and you don't really know, you don't take a second to sit down and have a conversation with Israelis. It's exactly like Corey said. Every person here is carrying with them something. Is carrying maybe even a universe with them. I mean, I know I am, and I know that Corey is. Like, both my story and Corey's stories are extremely interesting about both what we do in life, and we're just two people. Like every single person, the person in Shuka Kalman and the random person in the market who's a street vendor, to the person who's cleaning the streets, to the bus driver, to the taxi driver, they all have something to say. And it's also interesting, and what's really, really different about them, I would say different than anywhere else in the world, is that they're willing to share those stories. Camera or non-camera. You know how many times I walk around outside of my day? Now I moved to a different city. I'm outside of Tel Aviv, and it's like a way more local city, I would say. I have the most random interactions with human beings on the street where I find myself wondering, what am I doing here? Like, what is
I know
this?
where you live. You're living in the hood.
Yeah, I'm living in I couldn't
There's
afford
some
Tel Aviv
interesting
anymore.
stories there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just go downstairs to buy food and I have a conversation with somebody. I was in the supermarket the other day and I found myself in a singing battle between a Holocaust survivor and a Mizrahi Jew that was probably thrown out of Syria or something, and then a Russian a clerk at the at the counter, and it was just like the most weirdest cultural hodgepodge, a mix that doesn't make any sense, where just people are just throwing stories and anecdotes, and that's just happening every single day here. It's what makes this country amazing. Corey, I want to know from you, if there's one thing that you wish people knew about Israel, what would that be? If you could relay one specific message.
I'm tired, so I have to think. Um, to sum it up, it's not like most people think. It really isn't. It's different. And I don't mean that in the, I have there's such wonderful people here. How dare the media talk badly about them? Because I think a lot of people here deserve a lot of criticism, a lot. It's different than what people think outside. And I know it from the questions I get. I know it from the way people ask me questions outside of Israel, or how they make assumptions about Israelis. Um, uh, Thinking they think a certain way or they do things a certain way, and I'm like, yeah, you don't get it. You don't get it at all. It's very different. And it takes a long time to really understand that. It's the sad thing, because Israelis don't even understand how different they are, and they don't think that they're weird. Like, they don't know
Yeah.
this about themselves, right? So they don't know even what to explain. So you have to piece it together yourself. I have the same issue with Palestinians. Every time Palestinians say something, I'll like, my translator, I don't know if you experience this, where we'll say, well, they meant this, right? And she'll be like, no, the opposite. How do you not get that? Because Palestinian culture, Arab, Islamic culture is so different to me that I'm always misunderstanding them. Always. Completely misunderstanding them. And
Like
so,
physically misunderstanding what they're saying, or the way that they're speaking.
no. Like, they'll say something and put it a certain way, and I'll understand it the direct opposite of what they actually meant.
Wow.
This happens all the time. I mean, the example I always give is, for the first 3 years, I thought they're talking about the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza. None of them were talking about the occupation of West Bank and Gaza. They're talking about all the land. It took me 3 years to figure this out, because they don't think they hear occupation, it means everything.
It means the
Jews
whole
have to
thing.
leave.
Yeah.
That's occupation. It's everything.
Yeah.
And it took me 3 years to figure this out. I'm not so smart. So.
You don't give yourself enough credit, my friend. I really do believe
No,
that you're
but,
one of the
but the
smartest
point is,
people in the.
but nobody's that smart. It's hard to understand, because nobody explains the culture, and everybody speaks in these slogans and these ways of speaking that they think are perfectly clear to everybody, and are not at all.
Yeah, and you know what drives me crazy about the last year? This is just a personal anecdote now, but like, and I know that you actually toured with Destiny, right? You were with him at a certain point when he was here in Israel.
Yeah. I tried to take them to Nablus, and we didn't get in.
Like, when the last year, there's been so many people who have been representing the Israeli side, if that's even the right word to say, on social media, on TV, when, like, I haven't seen you a single time make a TV appearance, or, I'm sure that you have maybe done other things.
Me?
Yeah. Right? You've probably done some
Yeah,
minor stuff.
Minor, and I don't really want to do it. First of all, I don't think I'm a very good debater. I can only debate what I know. And what Netanyahu really thinks is doing, I'm not going to debate that. I don't care.
Right.
That's not my thing.
I just think that, like, I think when I think of who can really explain what the other side has done, it's just somebody who's been there and spent so much time with them from this perspective. You're not a Palestinian who's going to have, like, a desire to now cover up for all their shortcomings, and you definitely don't do that for the Jews. You definitely don't do it for the Zionists. Like, you do speak very openly in a negative manner about Israelis when needed. You do it. And so you know that you're not being biased in that perspective.
It's a shit show out there. But I also don't think I should be the only one doing this. Like, it's processed through my perceptions, as everything is, right? Every person has their own perceptions, which is fine. But don't listen to just me. Come here, go speak to these yahoos on both sides yourselves, and come to your own conclusions. You can think differently. I have no issue with that. But the big thing is, don't give excuses to really bad behavior. Okay, a little bit bad behavior, yeah, okay, I'm willing to give some excuses to every side. But the really bad behavior, violence, no, I don't give excuses. I don't think it's okay, and I don't think covering up for your own side is a good idea. And I understand in war, look, I've been criticized lately because there's a bunch of videos of Israelis who sound kind of stupid and heartless. And I've been on, I didn't tell you this, but I'm now on TRT and on Al Jazeera. One of my interviews, they stole it from me. I actually specifically said to TRT, no, you do propaganda. I don't give you permission.
And they took it anyways?
So, yeah, of course.
Motherfuckers.
I don't even think that legally it matters. I think they're allowed to do what they want. It's public, it's in the public eye. So, they can do what they want. And truthfully, it's, people say shit. People say crazy shit here. And I can't control that.
Yeah.
So, and then somebody will say, well, why did you post it? Because I post everything. Everything. So, what was my point here? Wait, I see now I'm tired and I can't remember my point.
Well, we have two more questions that came in.
It shouldn't be through my lens. It should be, people should be, come here and you all have no excuses. Oh, that's my pet peeve. Mostly you Americans, Canadians, Western Europeans, you have no excuse because I know the amount of money you guys spend at Costco and on clothing and on furniture and on going on vacation locally. Spend $2,000, come to Israel, stay in the hostel. You'll like it. It'll be great. And spend time with the group you least agree with. And then you criticize them. Fine, go ahead.
And it'll be
I have no
great.
issue with it.
And it would be great.
Oh, yeah. Fascinating. The food is fantastic. You'll love it.
Okay, we got two
I should
more.
work for the Ministry of Tourism.
You should.
Why are they not?
Honestly, you need to convert just to the Ministry of. You need to convert to the. You should be the traveling Corey. I'll take over for you in the Ask Project. Not the Ask Project. That's a different project.
I love doing it. I love doing it. They should pay me for this. No one official has ever paid me for anything.
This is a other can of worms that I talk about frequently. I talk about this with my friend Barak that you've met too, about the support for people like us who are out here creating content, whether it's defending Israel or not. There's nothing. You don't see any support for everybody who thinks that people like me and Corey are in this. And I'm not saying that we even create similar content because we don't, but like. For people who think that we're doing this because we're being paid by the Mossad or by the Israeli government, we see nothing. I've had to move 4 apartments since I got to Israel because I can't afford rent. It's like we're not seeing shit. If it's not you guys who pay my bills on Patreon and on Super Chats and buy me coffee, I have nothing. I have nothing if it's not for you guys. You guys are the ones who make this happen. So it's really just by the good grace of the people who watch this content and fuck with it that we're able to do what we do. Davide also sent us €5 and said, a Volk is a spiritual people with a national soul created to establish a class conflict in the socialist sense. Okay, well, thank you for the clarification. Thank you for the super chat. We also got one more super chat for $10. Says, hey, Corey, love your Ask Project interviews. You ask others on peace, but what is your opinion on peace? Is peace possible between Israelis and Palestinians in 2025? Thank you to Clat for hosting.
Look, anything is possible, I guess. Syria fell. Nobody saw that coming, but I highly doubt it because the problem is, if you oversimplify and generalize, both sides are so far apart from each other and neither side is willing to compromise. In fact, you use the word compromise with Palestinians and it's like, it means giving in or giving up completely. So they think they're going to be killed or sent away or cleansed or something. So I don't see peace happening. Sorry. I wish. I really do wish. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong on all these things. I'm not one of these people who really wants to be right about this. I want to be wrong.
About the fact that there might not be peace or that peace is not really possible.
Yes.
Okay.
Or most of what I say. Yes.
My lovelies, we are now in the most fun part of the show, the part of the show that I'm always the most excited about. Listen, this is the first time I'm really doing this with a proper guest setup where we have a lot of questions coming in and a lot of people who want to speak. So bear with me, guys, if we have some technical difficulties during this part because it's not flushed out completely. I appreciate you also, Corey, for bearing with me. Also, huge thank you to English Who Dat for just dropping us a random super chat for $25. We love you, homie. Thank you so much. I very much appreciate that.
Buying me coffee.
All right, let's start taking questions. I always like to prioritize people who have never called in before. So I see a man named Antoine. Antoine?
It's Antoine.
Antoine.
It's Antoine. Thank you, Tal. Yeah.
Welcome to the
Thank
show,
you for the
brother.
invitation.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Um, Sorry, I just wanted to say, like, I'm Canadian, but I'm from Egyptian origin,
Mm.
and I
I was
really
gonna
like
ask if
Israel,
you're. I
and
was
it's a
gonna ask
great
if you're
country.
Lebanese.
Yeah, I really like what you guys do, like you, Corey and Tal, and again, that's how I learned more about Israel. I've been planning to visit. My main question is that have you guys ever met like tourists from Arab countries in Israel?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
like, have you?
Oh. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so first of all, I have a few Egyptian friends who are in Canada. They're Copts. And
It's just like
one
me.
came to Israel years, but 20 something years ago. He did not like it. He said it was too chaotic, which is funny because I've been to Egypt, and Egypt is way more chaotic than
Super
Israel.
chaotic, yeah.
Yeah. I had a guy from Mauritius who I didn't know, but a friend of a friend knows him, and he came. Who else have I met? Jordanians. Um, a lot of like European, like Kurds or Arabs or like who have European passports have come.
Mhm.
Trying to think anyone else. Oh, I have a friend of mine who's religious, lived in Jerusalem, and he actually would go to pray every Shabbat. He would go to the Wailing Wall, and he would, because he's American and he's like a big believer in peace. He would make a point of trying to befriend when the random Muslims from Pakistan, like of Pakistani origin, like from the UK, would come wander into like the Jewish areas, and he would try to be really nice to them and explain about Judaism, because usually another criticism Israelis I have, the religious Israelis, is they don't know what to do with people who are really different. And so, like a guy wearing a Pakistani Muslim garb who wanders up at the Western Wall, they're kind of like, I don't know what to do with you. So they just kind of ignore them. And so he would go and befriend them and explain all about Judaism. And I was like, this is amazing. We need to create a whole group of people who do this, because that's what always happens. People who live in a certain area, they think, who is this strange person wearing these strange clothing? I don't know how to deal with them. So
I
no offense to
actually,
people who wear it.
I actually actively employ that upon myself when I see Muslims now or people of a different culture in Israel. Like, for example, if I see a group of people that I can tell are from Africa, usually there's Christian groups from like Kenya and Nigeria who come here to tour the old city of Jerusalem. I'll take a second to try to stop and make them feel welcome. If I see, I mean, this happened with me and Corey on the train recently. We were going to Ramla and we saw a Filipino lady who seemed lost. I took it upon myself to immediately try to help her because, one, I've lived in the Philippines for a while, so I feel a personal connection. But I do look at it, I think that more Jews need to look at guests in our country the way that Muslims do, in the sense of hospitality. They are guests in our land. This is our land, and they are guests in our land. We shouldn't look to avoid the tourists because they're tourists like they do in the West. We should look to actively make
Mhm.
a tourist in our country feel welcome and feel like we're looking out for them. Take personal responsibility for them. And that being said, I've had many, many interactions with Muslim tourists here. Most recently, I was filming in East Jerusalem, and there was a group of Muslims who came to tour Palestine from London. I don't think they were necessarily
Mhm.
going into Jewish areas. They were probably all over the West Bank, but they were all the women were in hijabs. All the men looked like they were, very, very religious. I asked them, and they were super friendly. They didn't think that a Jew was going to come up and talk to them in the way that I did. We had a really nice conversation. I've also been doing work with an organization called Sharaka that I really believe in, that actively brings Muslims to Israel to understand Israel. I toured with them the Nova site and the kibbutzim that got hit on October 7th. This was back in March, and I want to continue to do work with them in the future. So absolutely, man, we definitely, and me and Corey, every time we filmed, we had the opportunity to talk to Muslims. They're Israelis, not tourists, but Muslims who live here in Israel, and also engage with them in deep discussions. So for sure.
That's awesome. Thanks a lot. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Of course.
Thanks for calling in, Antoine. Appreciate you, bro. Okay,
Thank you.
let's take the next caller. I'm going to bring Antoine down off the stage. And sorry, guys, that Corey's beautiful face has to disappear there for a second. But we're back. Let's bring on Eli Green, a caller from Canada, Jewish Music Toronto. Welcome to the show, brother.
Or Canadians.
All right, we're finally going to see if I've got this working. Hello, hello, testing, testing. Am I finally working here?
Perfect. And you
I hear you.
sound good.
Finally. Okay, the last time this did not work very well. Tal, Before we get started with that, everybody should know I have a big thank you to give to Tal for his help with the Song Shul's Hanukkah project this year, because thanks to him, we got some amazing greetings for Hanukkah from non-Jews, from South Korea, and from an Emirati girl, the very first Emirati to study in Israel, Emirati female to study in Israel. So Tal, thank you so much for that.
My pleasure.
It was
bro.
amazing. Corey,
Yeah.
thank you for what you do. And how in the world did you even get started with thinking about doing that?
I've told this in podcasts, but in 2011, I was writing my thesis and I wasn't working and living in Tel Aviv. And so I was on, I think it was Facebook, I don't remember, some sort of forum where people were discussing. There's a group of people discussing Israel Palestine. Of course, none of them were Israeli or Palestinian. They were mostly some Jews. I don't think there were any Arabs, but it was mostly, other, whatever, non-Jews, non-Arabs, who were absolutely sure they knew everything about Israel Palestine. And I remember arguing with one of them about there was the tent protest, which is actually in front of my house, where I'm in front of my apartment where I was living, and arguing about who would be accepted and blah 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 blah. And somebody said, actually, somebody who's Canadian from Quebec said, "What are you going to do? Go ask them individually, one by one?" And it just flashed in my head that I have this video camera. Why am I not just recording the conversations that I have in front of my apartment, like on Rothschild, if you know it? And why am I not just recording this? And then I know from other things that if you limit people to a question, it helps just focus people. It's just like a trick you can do to, come up with a question. And it just all appeared in my head. This is what I could do. I could go ask people one question, ask, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people, and then put it together. And that was it. And I thought I would try it. Oh, now I can see you.
Very cool. Yes, yes.
So-
I didn't realize that video was a possibility on here. So hello, everyone. Hello from Toronto. Do you want me to give any thoughts from my perspective, Tal, on the
I think we'll keep
JT
it. I think we'll keep it
Polyev
moving along, just because
situation?
there's a lot of people who want to call in, and we're short on time. But
Perfect.
appreciate you calling in,
Thank
Eli.
you so much for
Thanks,
the
man.
time.
Yeah, appreciate you. See you, brother. Dorian, my Durian.
Hello.
Welcome to the show, brother.
Thanks. It's been a long time.
Hey,
Uh,
Dorian.
glad to be back and glad to see you too as well. And glad to
Where
see
are
you
you,
too,
where are you
Corey.
from, Dorian?
Israel. Yeah. Uh, I want to actually ask kind of follow up to somebody else who mentioned about peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And I personally think that we need to, I think, if you ask me, we should stop always the constant saying, this is my land, this is their land, this is that, and this, and start actually having a mature discussion about it. I'm not saying ignore what happened on October 7th and anything about this, because that would be suicidally idiotic. However, considering what's happening right now in the West Bank and the slugfest that Gaza is turning to be, where we are losing soldiers, number of soldiers almost every day in Gaza, we need to actually really consider what's the day after will be. And if you will allow me saying a crazy idea that I know nobody will support, if say that I agree with, first of all, I do not believe the Palestinians deserve a state at all. But if we want to have a crazy solution, unorthodox as well, let's go along the line of, if a Palestinian state were to be created, there are 3 agreements that have to be maintained between this hypothetical Palestinian state and Israel. A non-aggression pact a trade agreement between Israel and whatever Palestine would be named under the auspices of the United States, and the most ambitious and most likely difficult of all, a military alliance
Dorian,
between
Dorian, I'm
yes.
just try to keep it kind of brief because we have a lot of people who want to call in.
Yeah, I didn't mean to go that far. Just I'm trying to say we need to think outside of the box because the current situation we are stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I don't want to see more soldiers dying on the news.
Al, do you want to start?
Um, Listen, I mean, I think generally we all kind of agree with your statement of we don't want to see IDF soldiers dying. Um, there's no doubt that we need to be more pragmatic about everything that we're doing here, but I think like it's very hard to just like we've discussed in this conversation a few times with Corey. It's very hard to come up with any sort of rational idea when we're dealing with an extremely irrational situation. Does that make sense?
Yes, but if we sorry.
Corey?
No, I was just going to say that the problem is that conflict is a lot about emotions. It's not about logic, which is unfortunate because if we were logical, we probably could find solutions. It's about emotions and about believing this is my land. No, this is my land. This you did this to me. No, your history is wrong. It's very difficult to change people's minds about things that have to do with core identity beliefs. It's hard. It's really hard to do.
Yeah.
I wish it was easy. It's also the same rationale that I said about Palestinians. Okay, so there's no such thing as a Palestinian. So what? What are you going to do? Convince 15 million people they don't exist? There's something else? It's not, you have to deal with what you have. So, but I don't have an actual good solution. So,
Anything worthwhile is never easy.
True. That's definitely true, and I think that's a good point to end that one. And we'll take another caller now. Thank you, Dorian.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for calling, bro. Mr. Reaper of Souls, you're next in line, brother.
Shalom
Scary.
alaikum. What's up, my friends?
Aleichem shalom.
Hey.
Welcome to the show.
So I have a quick question for Corey, and I have one more thing to say. It'll be real quick. Corey, when you're doing the Ash Project, has there ever been a situation where where it got heated and you were afraid for you and your interpreter's safety?
I love this
Yes.
story. I love this story. This is my favorite story. I was waiting
Okay,
for
so I
somebody to ask.
I have a few. So in Palestinian areas, I only have one in Palestinian areas. It was recent. I was filming a guy, asked him a question, he answered it, and it was a touchy question. And then I asked the second question, which I don't even remember, something about and I haven't finished it yet, so it'll be out in a couple of months. But is resistance what we would call terrorism on our side? Is resistance worth it? So many people die, blah, blah, blah. He got freaked out by the question and said, turn it off, delete me. And I said, okay, I'll delete you, because anyone who says they want to be taken out, I'll take them out, not a problem. And he said, no, do it now. And I said, well, I can't on my camera. And he kept saying in Arabic, and she was translating, if he doesn't delete me now, I'm breaking his camera. Tell him to delete it. I'm going to break his camera. And so all I did is I don't have the camera here. I took the SD card out and I said, here, and I put it in my pocket. And he said, okay. And I don't know if he was dumb or he thought that, I don't know. I don't know what, I was just trying to back out of it. I have no idea. But that was the biggest thing that happened in Palestinian areas. In Israel, I was threatened twice. Once by a secular Jewish guy who said, I could beat you up, because he thought I was a leftist, anti-Israel person. And then another time, it was actually the scarier one, was by ultra-Orthodox Jews who were convinced that I am a Jews for Jesus or Messianic Jew. And so they surrounded me, and it got very aggressive very, very quickly. And everyone kept saying, you're going to have to leave. You're going to have to leave. And I'm like, but I'm not. I'm not a Messianic Jew. And they're like, you're going to have to leave. You're going to get the shit beaten out of you. And I was like, okay. So those were the times.
Okay. And then
Tal, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. What?
I just asking Tal if that what he thought I was going to say.
That was the story.
Okay.
Because I remember
Go
I
ahead.
asked you this
So-
recently. I only learned about this recently.
Yeah.
So my last thing is, I have a problem when they keep saying we have the right to return. So I've always done this when I talk to people about the right to return. Is let's say I live in Florida, so let's say I'm from originally from Illinois. So let's say Illinois tries to invade Florida, okay? And Illinois, the government of Illinois says, "Listen to me. We know you're from Illinois originally. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna invade Florida. You leave Florida, okay? We're gonna take it over, and then once you take it over, you can come back to live in Florida under our rule, okay?" I decide to leave. Illinois loses that war, okay? They do not get Florida, and I want to come back. And Florida's like, no, you chose your side. You chose to join the enemy and not join our side. So why the fuck would we trust you to come back to our country and be peaceful, or our state and be peaceful? That's the
You can
it's
tell that to
literally
Palestinians.
that's why I see. Yeah, you don't have the right. You chose your side, and now deal with the side.
Okay?
I mean, you don't.
You can tell that to
Choices have
Palestinians.
consequences. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you're falling on deaf ears, but this is a good point to tell Palestinians. You know.
Yeah, I know.
Well, thanks for your question and for your points.
Appreciate you.
Yeah,
See you,
no
brother.
problem.
Be well.
Thank you.
Take care.
Farini Marcello, welcome to the show.
Ciao.
Did I get that right? Are you Italian?
Yes, you're fine. You're
Wow,
absolutely
panfanculo, ma che cazzo?
Hey,
No,
hey,
no,
hey, hey, hey. Even I understood that.
fine. This one's not the proper word to start with an Italian. I'll
No,
tell you.
no, it's not.
I've been following you for for a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, or maybe four. But I can see in you a very clever man, a very smart and clever man, a shrewd, I would say, shrewd. Nevertheless, I don't wanna.
Are you
I
talking to
don't
me?
wanna. Beg your pardon?
You're talking to me or to Tal?
No, I'm talking about Tal. I don't
Okay.
know you. Can you hear me, Tal?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I heard you.
Can you hear me? Well, whatever I can say about the conflict at the moment. Well, I'm not talking about the conflict. I'm talking about the right of Israel to defend himself. The only thing about to solve the entire matter is a legal aspect. If we go into a legal aspect, we can find a solution. As a matter of fact, it's very difficult for me because I'm a Christian, because I'm Italian. In Italy, we don't have those sorts of problems, and blah 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 blah. Nevertheless, if we follow the path, if we go down the road of law, we can find a solution. I want to also say that I'm a convinced Zionist as well. And as a matter of fact, we do not have to enter the matter of anything but the right to Israel to defend himself. Whatever the Palestinian can say, first of all, they don't have a country; they have only a public administration over a certain space of land. First of all, the second is the right of Israeli to defend themselves. The third, there is not such a Palestine, as you always say, of course. And third, what can the Israelis say about the fact that, as happened yesterday, um, how many, 3 or 4 people died on the bus on the west, on Samaria or Judea, I don't remember where,
Yeah.
died. What can we say about this? We are always saying poor Palestinians, poor Palestinians. There is nobody poor here on this earth. What can we say? If we don't, it's tragic. I know it's tragic, but we have to face the matter as it should be done, because
Okay,
the
Farini,
United.
if you had to summarize what you're trying to say in like I'm just trying to get to the core of what you're trying to say. Like, if you had to summarize what you're trying to say in a sentence, what would that be?
It would be that, but we've tried with the Abraham Accord, fantastic, but he has failed. So Israel has to take over the entire matter once again, because the entire world doesn't give a toss about the fact that there are terrorists in there. They don't care about it. Furthermore, they finance them. They finance them.
I mean, I
They
agree.
give them money.
I agree with what you're saying. Absolutely.
As a lawyer, I can tell you straight away that they finance them through the United Nations. They give them funds. They give them money. I'm sick and tired of being not to be the usual mainstreamer in Italy, because I have people ranting on me every single day. Marcello,
Well,
you're
listen,
a Nazi.
I would say advice to that is you have to find your community that is Zionist in Italy, and then I would say furthermore, activism is probably an important thing for you. Like you don't seem like you want to shut up about it, so get out there, talk about it, engage with people.
I've been
But listen, Farini, we're just because we're quick on time, I'm gonna take another caller. Okay,
Please
you for
do.
calling in, bro. And thank you.
We'll have a chat, me and you.
Sure.
I will sustain your channel. No worries.
I appreciate you so much, brother. Thank you so much for calling in, and thanks for the kind words. Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
Chantal, can I be rude and cut the line?
Yes, come in, Lola.
Because my battery's died and I
Yes.
really want to get a question in. I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
Hi, Corey. First of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for your opinions and for sharing this platform with us. I'm gonna make a statement, and I really want to hear you out, like, because it interests me. I feel like in this discourse there is like this constant need to like make disclaimers, right? Be like, before you make a pro-Israeli, pro-Palestine, whatever, you're like kind of expected to make a disclaimer like, oh, I condone this and I condone this certain type of people and I condone this certain type of activity. Do you think that the statements that you're making, that I heard you even making during the stream, are in some way related to that fact? Like, do you feel obligated to make them so more people will be inclined to listen to your content?
No,
It's not
not
criticism
really.
about
No.
you, criticism about people.
Sorry if I understood you
No?
correctly. No, not really. I these are things I really feel. These are my conflicting opinions, and I'm always carrying with me. No, I find it silly. I think, and I understand the reason because I sometimes feel it myself from people, where I make an assumption that they're anti-Israel or anti-Jewish or they're anti-Arab or anti-Palestinian or something like that, and so I get a little bit offended. But I think we as culturally in terms of the worldwide culture are just way too sensitive about these things. So no, that's not my reasoning at all. I really do feel these things because I deal with each group and I think there are a lot of things that are legitimate on both sides. So I call out what I think, but people have different opinions. That's okay.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Lola.
Thanks, Lola.
All
Great
right,
name.
guys, we're coming down to the last couple minutes of the show, so we're gonna keep this real quick now. All right, I'm gonna try to go speed through. Please keep your questions very brief, please. Tim.
Just questions.
Tim, you're up next. DSI. Okay, did he leave? Tim, are you with us?
Hello, Tor.
Hey, brother.
It's amazing to see you. It's amazing to see you and Corey together because Corey was the very reason why I found you. So
Wow.
it's quite amazing.
Look at that, Corey.
Yeah.
And Tim's one
now
of
I'm
my biggest supporters.
fan.
Yeah, Tim's one of my biggest supporters,
yeah?
Corey.
Cool.
So thank you, Corey.
I love you guys.
Thank you, Corey. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Tim and Corey.
And it's kind of amazing, no? Like when I saw your videos, I think it would end like at the moment when October 7 would happen. You would just stop your program, your project, and you would just continue doing something else. But instead, you're continuing your work. And I think it's really amazing. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. I actually took a small break because I figured everyone's going to be hyper emotional. But as soon as I could, I went back out.
Well, we love Corey on this channel. We appreciate you calling in, Tim. Thank you so much, brother. Okay, next up is a Hollywood. Please, again, I'm reminding everybody, please keep it very brief, okay?
Assalamualaikum. Corey, I think you are a great person on the show. You inspired a lot of people. And Tal, you did a great job trying to get him over here.
Yeah.
My question is, I only have one simple question, no politics today. If you were to meet someone, whether it's an Israeli or Palestinian, any ethnicity who has different beliefs, what would your reaction be? Because that's how I feel like sometimes. My education, my knowledge is very different from the West. And I get misjudged all the time, even by Palestinians when I am a Muslim. And they don't like me.
Again, repeat the question. What is?
If somebody has like different beliefs, like is whether it's a Palestinian, even a Jew, or any ethnicity, what would your reaction be if their beliefs don't match your belief? Like if you
Well,
don't agree with them,
I would generally ask questions, and because we tend, in general, I do it too. We tend to make a lot of assumptions in what people are saying, and it might be a little bit wrong, or at least maybe not totally wrong, but a little bit wrong. So when people, for example, when I hear people say "from river to sea, Palestine will be free," I get offended because I making an assumption that I get ethnically cleansed. I would ask, what do you mean by that? And I'd ask them to explain, just as an example. So if people have different views, I ask them to explain it. It's much more helpful if I'm behind a camera because I don't get as offended behind a camera. If I'm face to face with people, I usually get offended. So it really depends. It depends. And if I'm offended, I'm offended. I mean, there's not much I can do, but I will try to talk them out of, mostly if I think they're irrational and hateful views, I try to talk them out of it. But sometimes you just go, what am I going to do? Like, it's tiring. So I don't say
right
anything.
here, same. I got misjudged by a Muslim, literally told to my face that, oh, you're so arrogant, you're so stupid, you don't know what you're doing. And I just listen. I'm like, okay, I'm a fool. You educate me. Okay.
Thank you so much thanks for coming on. Thanks for asking. See you. Guys, I'm gonna like you guys ask your question and then I'll take you guys off the stage just so we can keep it moving, keep it flowing. Mr. Giga Chad, you're on with us.
Yes, it is good to see you again, Tal. It was 2 months almost. Crazy. Yes.
How's it going?
I'm really happy to see you again. There's the first thing.
Likewise.
Yeah, thank you. And Corey, and I also, I'm also really happy that you're here, that you are actually doing this, going to the West Bank or Judea Samaria, and then asking those people what do they think about this country, the people around it, and I liked it. All I'm saying is keep doing what you're doing, you know.
Oh, thanks. I'll do it as long as I can. I love doing this. I have such a good
also.
Oh damn! I took him down with. Oh, hold on. Let me be fair. Wait, I thought he was finished with his thing. I'm just trying to keep it moving, so that's on my bad. Sorry, bro. I thought you were finished.
No. It's okay. Let me just turn on my camera real quick.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is that I also learned lots of stuff about the Palestinian, let's say, the culture by mostly watching like the Pal Watch. Do you know Pal Watch, Corey? Palestinian Media Watch.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yep. Amazing. It's an amazing way to learn about this culture. Also, Memory TV. Memory TV is amazing.
Yeah.
Just saying, you know.
It is. I always question about that is how common are the views, but now when I watch them, I know which ones are the more common ones and which ones are the less common ones. So yeah. And that was my point. I want to know, is this mainstream, is it not? Views. I mean, it's still scary when somebody says something hateful, but it's different if it's a fringe view or if it's a mainstream view. Yeah, I agree.
Amazing,
Anyways,
brother.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. Sorry, I got to keep it moving, guys. I'm sorry. We got to just. Yeah. Loki, you're on.
I gotta get sleep. I'm an old person.
Hi, Corey.
Hey, Loki.
Hi. So my favorite video of yours was probably over 10 years ago. It was about a Jewish woman whose daughter married a Gazan, and she eventually had to go into Gaza and get her out. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, because there was 2 videos. There's one, it's my mother-in-law talking about her husband's sister, which is also really old, who went to live in Gaza. Is that what you mean?
I think so. She went and she had she even took her young son, and the young son was playing with some of the kids in Gaza.
That's my mother-in-law.
Yeah. Okay,
I'm no
what's your
longer
music
married, but yes, but
Okay, so
yes.
that was that was one of the ones that I found the most interesting. And
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like, what questions or what topics do you find tend to get the most views
Oh.
and the most reactions?
So I would
Good
say
question.
it's really sad. Okay, so anything to do with Jesus and Christianity, because then the Christians watch, which I did not expect. I actually was asked about Jews' views, the Jewish people's views on Jesus, and I kind of ignored it because I thought, who cares? Like but I don't believe in religion, so what do I know? And then it got the most views. And then I would say anything which can bring out hate, unfortunately. It gets a lot. They get a lot of views. Like the newest one with asking Israelis, do you know how many people died in Gaza? I actually think it's a little bit of a boring video, and I found people kind of sounding a bit heartless, and it kind of disappointed me in Israelis. But I didn't think it was such a big deal, and it's gotten so many views I did not expect at
Wow.
all. Not at all.
Wow, that's a new one that you put out recently.
Yeah, it's like a week ago.
Wow.
Yeah, and it depressed me because I thought, God, where are we going with this? Like we've kind of lost, and I understand why, because I have to deal with the Palestinians all the time, and sometimes their views are just so offensive to me. But at the same time, we're supposed to be a people who have sympathy. We should be.
All right, let's
So,
do the next
yeah.
question. Zentap, thank you, Loki, for asking the question. Appreciate you.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, first of all, really great to see you on here, Corey, and talk
Sure.
both together. This is fantastic. And I just want to first of all say, just you guys are doing great things. I think the more we talk to people from different viewpoints and different backgrounds, the better it is to build bridges, despite
I
whatever
agree.
differences we may have. That's an important thing, and to ask questions and to probe and to really build questions by speaking with build bridges by speaking with people is a good thing. My only question for you, and I'll make it quick because I know you got a bunch of people here, is Corey. Very often when I see your videos, I think to myself, man, you must be wanting to push back a lot on what some people tell you on whatever side on wherever questions you ask from people. And I'm wondering, do you have the urge to sometimes push back on what people give you as an answer, or are you just satisfied that they're giving you an answer and you have no interest in pushing back?
No, I always have interest in pushing back. I'm always thinking I need to make sure this is short, so it can't go too long. I'm thinking, is the follow-up question going like the purpose of the follow-up question is to check if what I heard is more or less what I think I heard, or to give them the option to go, oh, okay, you know what, blah blah blah, like slightly different or a nuance of it. And I always want to push back, but then that's always the issue with discussions, is it goes from issue to issue to issue, especially in the Middle East. It goes, from A to B to C to D, and it just goes all over the place. And I keep thinking, if I want to do this in a tidy way so people get an idea, I have to not push back too much. But I try to push back in different ways. Sometimes I forget to do that because I do the videos over a long time. So some of them might be, I've been filming them for like 8 months. And I go, like 1 week to this place and then 3 weeks later to another place. Sometimes I forget. As I'm editing them, I go, oh shit, I should have asked it this way. But yeah, more or less that's, but I want to push back more than I do, of course.
Listen, guys, that's the end of the call-in section. I know there were some people who were waiting, and I'm sorry we couldn't get to. Hopefully, we'll have Corey on again in the future if he enjoyed the show as much. I want to respect your time also because we're already an hour and 30 in, so I already took everybody down off the stage. But we're gonna move on to the Patreon show. So anybody who wants the after show, that's just Corey's not there, but that's just me. So if you like me, come along.
Is it you dancing? What do you do at an after show? What's going on?
It's my OnlyFans. So this is the Ask Project. My after show is the Ask Project. It's ASS.
I want to see that.
Corey, thank you a million times for joining us after a long day of work.
You're
we
very
appreciate
welcome.
you. Where can everybody find you? Please let them know.
You can find me on YouTube, the Ask Project, Ask an Israeli, Ask a Palestinian. It's the best place. I don't post much on Instagram or on Facebook. So.
Hopefully soon he will. We're hopefully working on some short form content for Corey. I'm hoping that he gets into it. Also, guys, I will say this: Corey survives and is able to do this project based on your donations. Personal voucher doesn't mean if you're left or right or center, whatever you are politically. In my opinion, as somebody who's in the advocacy space advocating for Israel, I truly believe that Corey's work is some of the best that exists for Israel. Regardless if you agree with Corey or you don't agree with Corey, or if you agree with some of the stuff that people say in his videos and he publishes, his work has done immensely powerful things for Israel and for its image. So if you can and you're able to, at least watching his videos, but supporting him financially, I think is one of the most important things we can do for the state of Israel, for Zionism, and for this conflict. So show him some love. Links for his channel and his pages will be down below in the description. Corey, we love you. We stan you. You're one of our favorites of all time. And we'll talk to you again soon.
Love you too. Love you long time.
Love you long time, everybody. See you in the next one. Bye, guys. Thank you.
Later.
Shalom and